The real victory is my kids beside me, not revenge.
Some men find God on the rigs. Me? I found a divorce text at 3 a.m. while covered in crude oil and my own sweat. The message glowed on my cracked phone screen like a neon sign outside a strip club. Tom, I'm leaving you. Moving to Palm Springs with Tyler. Took what I needed from our accounts. Kids are with me. Don't bother calling. Fresh start. I read it 3 times before my brain processed the words. Vanessa, my wife of 14 years. The woman I'd worked 60-hour weeks for, the mother of my children, had just blown up my life in 43 words. My hands shook as I typed back. Sure, good luck with that. What else could I say? Beg? Plead? I was standing on an oil platform in the Gulf of Mexico, 200 miles from shore, with 6 more days before my rotation ended. By the time I got home, she'd be gone. Galloway! You gonna stand there playing Candy Crush, or you gonna help us cap this valve? Big Mike's voice boomed across the platform. I shoved the phone in my pocket and grabbed my wrench. The work was brutal, mindless, exactly what I needed. But every time I had a spare second, my mind went back to that text. Took what I needed from our accounts. How much had she taken? When my shift ended at dawn, I checked my banking app. My stomach dropped faster than a drill bit through shale. Checking account, $247.82 savings account, $0 joint investment account closed. 15 years of back-breaking labor, of missing birthdays and holidays, of breathing in toxic fumes and risking my life on rickety platforms, all of it gone. She'd cleaned me out completely, left me with barely enough for a tank of gas. I called her, straight to voicemail. I called again, same thing. I tried the house phone, disconnected. Then I called my kids. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. She'd changed their numbers, changed my baby's phone numbers so I couldn't reach them. Noah was 12, Daisy was 8. They needed their father, and she'd just cut the line. I sat on my bunk, staring at the metal wall, feeling something cold and hard settle in my chest. Not anger yet, something worse, clarity. My bunkmate, Rick Alvarez. We called him Slick because he'd once talked his way out of a bar fight by convincing 3 bikers he was their cousin from El Paso. Walked in and immediately knew something was wrong. Jesus, Tom, you look like you just watched your dog get hit by a truck. Worse, I said. Vanessa left me, took everything. Kids, money, all of it. Rick sat down hard on his bunk. The heck you mean everything? I showed him the text, the bank accounts. He whistled low. Man, that's cold. Even for her. He paused. You know she's been hanging around with that Tyler kid, right? The one who works at that fancy gym in Houston? What Tyler kid? Rick's face went pale. Oh, man, you didn't know. Know what, Rick? He pulled out his own phone, scrolled through Facebook, and handed it to me. There was Vanessa, my wife, draped over some pretty boy with perfect teeth and arms covered in expensive tattoos. The caption read, New beginnings with my soulmate. Posted 6 months ago, 6 months. While I was out here breathing hydrogen sulfide and dodging equipment malfunctions, she was playing house with some gym rat named Tyler. There's more, Rick said quietly. My cousin Lila, the one who does nails in River Oaks, she does Vanessa's friend group. Says Vanessa's been bragging about trading in for a younger model. Says this Tyler guy is some kind of entrepreneur. Entrepreneur? I laughed, but it came out bitter. What's he sell, protein shakes? Pills, actually. At least that's the rumor. Nothing proven, but Lila says Vanessa's new crowd is pretty wild. Parties every weekend, expensive cars they can't afford, that whole scene. I handed back the phone. My hands weren't shaking anymore. That cold clarity was spreading through my chest like frost on a window. How long until we're back on shore? I asked. 5 days? Why? Because I need to make some calls. And then I need to see what's left of my life. Rick studied my face. Tom, whatever you're thinking, I'm thinking my wife stole my money, my kids, and my dignity. I'm thinking she's probably laughing about it right now with her boy toy and her fancy friends. I'm thinking she forgot one important thing. What's that? I'm a roughneck, Rick. I spend my days working with machinery that could end me in a dozen different ways. I solve problems under pressure. I don't quit when things get hard. I stood up. She took everything but my backbone. Time to see what's left. The next 5 days crawled by like cold molasses. I worked my shifts, kept my head down, and made phone calls during every break. First call, my bank. They confirmed what I already knew. Vanessa had legal access to all our joint accounts. She'd withdrawn everything, closed the investment account, and transferred it all to a new account in her name only. Perfectly legal, perfectly devastating. Second call, a lawyer in Houston. He gave me the bad news in a bored voice that suggested he'd delivered this speech 1,000 times before. Mr. Galloway, Texas is a community property state. If she took money from joint accounts, that's technically her right until a judge says otherwise. As for the kids, if she has physical custody and you're out of state for work, she has the advantage. You'll need to file for divorce immediately and request an emergency custody hearing. That'll cost about $5,000 up front. I have $247. Then you'll need to find more money, Mr. Galloway. I'm sorry. Third call, my mother. She cried. She offered to help with money she didn't have. I told her I'd figure it out and hung up before I started crying too. Fourth call, Rick's cousin, Lila. She answered on the third ring, her voice dripping with sympathy. Tom, honey, I'm so sorry about what happened. Vanessa's been telling everyone you were emotionally distant, that you chose work over family. She say anything else? Lila hesitated. Tom, I don't know if... Please, Lila. I need to know what I'm dealing with. She's telling people Tyler is better in every way. Better looking, better in bed, better with money. She showed us pictures of this mansion they're renting in Palm Springs. Says Tyler's business is booming, that they're going to give your kids the life you never could. My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might crack. What kind of business? She calls it pharmaceutical distribution. But Tom, between you and me, my boyfriend's a cop. He says Tyler Becker has been on their radar for years. Small-time dealer trying to go big-time. Nothing they can prove yet, but it's only a matter of time. Tyler Becker. Finally, a last name, something I could work with. Lila. I need you to do me a favor. Keep your ears open. Anything Vanessa or her friends say about Tyler, about where they're going, what they're doing, I need to know. Tom, what are you planning? Just trying to protect my kids, Lila, that's all. When I finally got off that rig, I didn't go home. There was no home to go to. Instead, I drove my beat-up Ford F-150 to Rick's apartment in Houston's 3rd Ward. He'd gotten off the rig 2 days before me and had already started digging. Welcome to Command Central, Rick said, opening the door. His small living room looked like a conspiracy theorist's wet dream. Papers covered every surface. His laptop sat open on the coffee table, and a corkboard on the wall had photos connected by red string. You've been busy, I said. You have no idea. Sit down. You're going to want to be sitting for this. I dropped onto his sagging couch while Rick pulled up a chair and grabbed a notebook. Okay, so Tyler Becker, 25 years old, born in Vancouver, moved to Houston 3 years ago. Works at Elite Fitness in River Oaks, but that's just his day job. His real money comes from selling prescription pills. Oxy, Adderall, Xanax, you name it. He's got connections to some serious people, Tom. Mexican cartel guys who use him for distribution in the rich neighborhoods. And Vanessa knows this? Oh, she knows. According to Lila, Vanessa thinks it's exciting. She's been posting cryptic stuff on Instagram about living dangerously and taking risks. Her friends eat it up. Rick pulled up Vanessa's Instagram on his laptop. I barely recognized her. She dyed her hair platinum blonde, wore clothes that cost more than my truck payment, and every photo showed her draped over Tyler or posing in front of luxury cars. One caption caught my eye. Left the deadweight behind. Flying first class now. Deadweight. She'd called me deadweight. There's more, Rick said. I did some digging on that Palm Springs mansion. It's a rental, $12,000 a month. Tyler's name is on the lease, but get this. He paid 6 months up front in cash. That's $72,000, Tom. Where's a gym trainer getting that kind of money? Pills money. Exactly. But here's the interesting part. I called a buddy of mine who works in real estate out there. He says that neighborhood is crawling with DEA surveillance. They're watching someone on that street, and I bet my left nut it's Tyler. I leaned forward. So he's under investigation? Probably. Which means Vanessa and your kids are living in a house that might get raided any day. That cold clarity in my chest turned to ice. My children were in danger because my wife was too stupid and selfish to see she'd traded a boring but stable life for a flashy disaster. I need to get out there, I said. With what money? You're broke, remember? Then I'll borrow it. I'll sell my truck. I'll do whatever it takes. Rick held up his hands. Hold on, cowboy. You go charging out there half-cocked. Vanessa will get a restraining order and you'll never see those kids again. We need to be smart about this. Smart how? We need evidence. Proof that Tyler's a criminal, that Vanessa's putting your kids in danger. Then we take it to a judge and bury her in court. Rick grinned. Lucky for you, I know a guy who knows a guy. What kind of guy? The kind who can get us surveillance equipment, fake IDs, whatever we need. He owes me a favor from back when I kept him out of jail on a DUI. I should have said no. Should have done things the legal way. Hired a lawyer, filed motions, played by the rules. But the rules hadn't protected me when Vanessa emptied our accounts. The rules hadn't stopped her from taking my kids to live with a pills dealer. Sometimes you have to make your own rules. Set it up, I said. 3 days later, I was in Palm Springs, California, sweating my A off in Rick's cousin's trailer. And when I say cousin, I mean his second cousin, twice removed, who he'd met once at a wedding. The guy's name was Danny. He had a limp from a motorcycle accident, and his trailer smelled like old beer and cat piss. Mi casa es su casa, Danny said, gesturing around the cramped space. Just don't touch the cat's food bowls. They're particular about their territory. I counted 5 cats, 5 mangy, suspicious cats who watched me like I'd personally insulted their ancestors. This is great, Danny. Really appreciate it, I lied. No problem, man. Any friend of Rick's and all that? You staying long? Just until I figure some things out. Danny nodded knowingly. Woman trouble, huh? Say no more. My ex-wife took everything but my collection of NASCAR memorabilia. Joke's on her, though. That collection's worth at least $300. After Danny left for his shift at the casino, I pulled out the equipment Rick had gotten from his contact. A small listening device that looked like a button, a camera disguised as a pen, a GPS tracker the size of a quarter. All of it probably illegal, definitely inadmissible in court. But I wasn't planning to use it in court. I was planning to use it to destroy Vanessa's perfect new life. First, I needed to find her house. Rick had given me the address, but I wanted to see it myself, get a feel for the neighborhood, figure out the best approach. The drive took 15 minutes through increasingly fancy neighborhoods. Palm trees lined the streets, and every house looked like it belonged in a magazine. Swimming pools sparkled behind privacy walls. Mercedes and BMWs sat in circular driveways. And there, at the end of a cul-de-sac, was the address I'd memorized. 847 Desert Vista Drive. The house was massive. Spanish-style architecture, terracotta roof, 3-car garage. The front yard was xeriscaped with expensive-looking desert plants and decorative rocks. A fountain burbled near the front door. This was what my wife had left me for. This and the pretty boy who paid for it with pills money. I parked down the street and watched. 20 minutes passed, then an hour. Just when I was about to give up, the garage door opened and out came a silver Porsche Cayenne. Tyler was driving, Vanessa in the passenger seat, both of them wearing sunglasses that probably cost more than my monthly rig salary. My kids weren't in the car. I followed at a distance as they drove to a trendy restaurant downtown. They parked, went inside, and I watched through the window as they ordered expensive cocktails and appetizers. Vanessa laughed at something Tyler said, touching his arm, leaning in close. She looked happy, genuinely, radiantly happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. That hurt worse than the divorce text. I sat in my truck, watching them through the restaurant window, and felt something shift inside me. Not anger anymore. Something colder, more focused. She thought she'd won, thought she'd traded up, left the roughneck for the high life. She had no idea what was coming. I drove back to the house and parked 3 doors down. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink that would have been beautiful if I wasn't planning a felony. At 10 p.m., the Porsche pulled back into the garage. Lights came on throughout the house. I could hear music thumping from the backyard. They were having a party. At midnight, I made my move. The side gate was locked, but the fence was only 6 feet tall. I'd climbed drilling towers in storms worse than this. I pulled myself up and over, landing in soft grass on the other side. The backyard was enormous. An infinity pool glowed blue in the darkness. A hot tub bubbled near a covered patio. And gathered around the pool were about 20 people, all of them young, all of them drunk or high or both. Tyler stood by the pool in designer swim trunks, holding court like some kind of desert king. Vanessa sat in the hot tub with 3 other women, all of them laughing at something on someone's phone. I crept along the fence line, staying in the shadows. Through the sliding glass door, I could see into the house. And there, on a couch in the living room, watching TV by themselves, were Noah and Daisy. My kids, my babies, alone inside while their mother partied. Noah looked older than I remembered. His hair was longer, and he had the slumped posture of a kid who'd given up on something. Daisy was curled up against him, clutching a stuffed rabbit I'd won for her at the county fair 3 years ago. Seeing them there, abandoned and ignored while Vanessa got drunk with strangers, made my blood boil. I took photos with the camera pen. Vanessa in the hot tub, Tyler doing a line of white powder off the patio table, the kids alone inside. Every photo was evidence, ammunition for later. Then I heard Tyler's voice rise above the music. "Yo, everyone shut up for a second. I got an announcement." He climbed onto a pool chair, swaying slightly. "So, you all know my girl Vanessa here traded in her old broke husband for a real man, right?" Laughter from the crowd. Vanessa smiled, not even having the decency to look embarrassed. "Well, I just want to say, baby, you made the right choice. That roughneck loser was holding you back. But me? I'm taking you places. We're going big time, baby. Real big time." More cheers. Someone handed Tyler a beer and he chugged it while the crowd counted. I wanted to jump the fence right then. Wanted to grab Tyler by his perfect hair and introduce his face to the concrete. But I forced myself to stay still, to keep taking photos, to gather evidence. Then I heard something that changed everything. One of Tyler's friends, a guy with a shaved head and neck tattoos, pulled him aside. They didn't realize how close I was to the fence, how clearly I could hear them. "Yo, Ty, you talked to Miguel about the Canadian thing?" "Yeah, man, it's all set up. We're moving the kids up there next week, use them as cover for the shipment. Nobody searches a family vehicle, you know. And the girl's cool with it?" "Vanessa? She doesn't know the details. Just thinks we're taking a vacation. By the time she figures it out, we'll be across the border and I'll be 50 grand richer." My heart stopped. Tyler was planning to use my children as cover for pills smuggling. He was going to take them across the Canadian border with illegal narcotics hidden in their vehicle, putting them at risk of arrest, violence, or worse. And Vanessa had no idea. I took more photos, including several of Tyler and his tattooed friend. Then I carefully made my way back to the fence. Getting over was harder than getting in. My hands were shaking with rage, but I managed. Back in my truck, I sat for a long moment, breathing hard. Then I pulled out my phone and called the one person I thought might help. "This is Special Agent Drew McCall, FBI. Leave a message." Rick had given me McCall's number 2 days ago. Said he was a straight shooter, by the book but fair, and that he owed Rick's family a favor from way back. "Agent McCall, my name is Tom Galloway. I have information about a planned pills smuggling operation across the Canadian border. It involves my 2 children being used as cover without their knowledge. I need to talk to you as soon as possible." I left my number and hung up. Then I drove back to Danny's trailer, past the sleeping cats, and lay awake on the lumpy couch, staring at the ceiling. Vanessa had taken everything from me. My money, my kids, my dignity. She'd called me deadweight and traded me in for a criminal who saw our children as props in his pills operation. But she'd made one critical mistake. She'd forgotten that roughnecks don't quit. We don't back down. We solve problems, no matter how dangerous or complicated. And I was about to solve this problem in a way she'd never see coming. Agent Drew McCall called me back at 6 a.m. I've been awake for hours, drinking Danny's terrible coffee and watching the cats judge me. Mr. Galloway, this is Agent McCall. I got your message. Tell me everything." I did. The divorce, the money, Tyler's pills dealing, the overheard conversation about using my kids as cover for smuggling. I sent him the photos I'd taken, the recordings I'd made. McCall was quiet for a long moment after I finished. "Mr. Galloway, you understand that you just admitted to trespassing and illegal surveillance?" "Yes, sir." "And you understand that none of this evidence would be admissible in court?" "Yes, sir." "Good. Now that we've established you're an idiot, let's talk about how we can use this." I heard papers shuffling. "Tyler Becker has been on our radar for 2 years. Small-time dealer with big-time connections. We've been trying to build a case, but he's careful. Never holds product long enough for us to catch him. The tattooed guy mentioned someone named Miguel. Miguel Soto, mid-level cartel operative. If Tyler's working with Miguel, this is bigger than we thought." More shuffling. "You said they're planning to cross into Canada next week?" "That's what I heard." "And they're using your children as cover?" "My ex-wife doesn't know. She thinks it's a vacation." McCall swore under his breath. "Okay, here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me everything you know about their plans. Then you're going to stay the heck out of the way while we set up surveillance. If we can catch them at the border with product, we can take down Tyler and possibly Miguel, too. What about my kids? They'll be fine. We'll have agents in place. The moment we confirm there are pills in the vehicle, we'll pull them over before they cross. Your kids won't be in any real danger. You promise?" "Mr. Galloway, I have 3 kids of my own. I promise." Over the next 3 days, I worked with McCall and his team. They were professionals, efficient, and thorough. They set up surveillance on Tyler's house, tracked his movements, and monitored his communications. Meanwhile, Rick arrived in Palm Springs to help me with the next phase of the plan. "You look like heck," he said when I picked him up at the airport. "I'm sleeping on a couch, surrounded by judgmental cats." "How do you think I look?" Rick laughed. "Well, cheer up. I brought supplies." The supplies turned out to be a duffel bag full of surveillance equipment, fake IDs, and two-way radios that McCall had approved for our use. "The FBI's letting us help?" I asked. McCall said, and I quote, "If you're dumb enough to tail a pills dealer, you might as well do it properly. He gave us these radios so we can coordinate with his team. I think I like this guy." We spent the next 2 days following Tyler and Vanessa. They went to fancy restaurants, exclusive clubs, and high-end shops where they dropped money like it was Monopoly cash. Vanessa bought clothes, jewelry, and a purse that probably cost more than my truck. My kids weren't with them. According to McCall's surveillance, Noah and Daisy were spending most of their time at the house with a babysitter, some college kid Tyler paid under the table. On the third day, we got the call from McCall. "It's happening tomorrow. Tyler just confirmed with Miguel. They're driving to Vancouver, crossing at the Peace Arch border. Vehicles are rented SUV, registered to a shell company. They're planning to hide the product in custom compartments built into the car seats." "The car seats where my kids will be sitting?" "Exactly. Which is why we're going to stop them before they cross. I'll have agents at the border and along the route. You and your friend can follow at a distance, but you do not engage. Understand?" "Understood." "I mean it, Galloway. You stay back. Let us do our job." "I will." I was lying, of course. The next morning, Tyler, Vanessa, Noah, and Daisy loaded into a black Chevy Suburban with tinted windows. I watched from down the street as Tyler checked something in the back, then slammed the hatch shut. My kids looked excited. Daisy was bouncing in her seat, and even Noah looked less miserable than usual. They thought they were going on a family vacation. Rick and I followed in his rental car, staying 3 cars back like McCall had instructed. The FBI had agents scattered along the route, invisible but present. The drive from Palm Springs to the Canadian border took about 20 hours. We drove in shifts, stopping only for gas and bathroom breaks. Tyler drove fast, often speeding, clearly anxious to get the job done. Vanessa seemed oblivious. She took selfies, posted on Instagram, and sang along to the radio. My kids slept in the back, unaware that they were sitting on top of what McCall estimated was about 30 pounds of fentanyl and white powder. We crossed into Washington State just after midnight. The border was only a few hours away now. McCall's voice crackled over the radio. "All units, target is approaching the staging area. Prepare to intercept." Rick looked at me. "You ready for this?" "I've been ready since she sent that text." At 3 a.m., we pulled into a rest stop about 10 miles from the border. Tyler's Suburban was parked under a light, and I could see him pacing beside it, talking on his phone. "Miguel's guys are supposed to meet him here," McCall's voice said over the radio. "They're going to transfer some of the product to another vehicle. Reduce the risk." "So, we take them here?" I asked. "Negative. Too many civilians. We wait until they're at the border, then we move." But I wasn't waiting anymore. I got out of the car before Rick could stop me. Walked across the parking lot toward the Suburban. Tyler saw me coming and froze. "The heck are you doing here?" he said. "Protecting my kids." "Your kids? They're not your kids anymore, old man. Vanessa's moving on and so are they." I kept walking until I was right in his face. Up close, he was smaller than he looked in photos. Soft, gym muscles, not work muscles. "You're using my children to smuggle pills across an international border," I said quietly. "Did you really think I wouldn't find out?" Tyler's face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yeah, you do, and so does the FBI." His eyes widened. Then he did something stupid. He swung at me. I'd been in fights before. Real fights, not gym sparring sessions. I ducked his punch, grabbed his wrist, and twisted. Tyler yelped and dropped to his knees. "You're done," I said. "It's over." That's when the rest stop exploded into chaos. FBI agents appeared from everywhere. Cars, buildings, shadows, tools drawn, shouting commands. Tyler tried to run, but an agent tackled him before he made it 3 steps. Miguel's guys, who'd just pulled into the parking lot in a white van, saw the badges and tried to flee. They didn't make it far. Inside the Suburban, Vanessa was screaming. The kids were awake now, confused and scared. I ran to the car and opened the back door. "Dad?" Noah said, his voice small. "It's okay, buddy. You're safe now, both of you." I unbuckled them and pulled them out of the car. Daisy wrapped her arms around my neck and wouldn't let go. Noah stood close, his hand gripping my shirt. McCall approached, holstering his tool. "Mr. Galloway, I told you not to engage." He swung first. I was just defending myself. McCall shook his head, but he was smiling slightly. "Sure. Self-defense. That's what we'll call it." He gestured to the Suburban. "We found the product. 32 pounds of fentanyl, 15 pounds of white powder, all hidden in compartments below the seats where your kids were sitting. If they'd been caught at the border, your children would have been arrested as accessories." But Vanessa didn't know? Based on her reaction? No, she didn't know. Which means she's not getting charged. Just her boyfriend and his associates. I looked over at Vanessa. She was sitting on the curb, head in her hands, sobbing. Part of me felt sorry for her, but only a very small part. "What happens now?" I asked McCall. "Now? Tyler and his friends go to federal prison for a very long time. Your kids go home with you, and your ex-wife gets to explain to a judge why she moved your children into a pills dealer's house. She's not getting arrested. Not enough evidence that she knew about the pills, but between you and me," McCall leaned in, "her life is about to get very, very difficult." He was right. Turns out, Texas family court judges don't look kindly on mothers who move their children in with pills dealers. Who knew? I found this out 3 weeks later, sitting in a Houston courtroom that smelled like old wood and broken families. Vanessa sat on the other side with her lawyer, a slick guy in an expensive suit who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. My lawyer was a woman named Patricia Hoffman, 60 years old, built like a bulldog, with a reputation for destroying opponents in custody cases. Rick's family had pooled money to hire her, and she was worth every penny. "Mr. Galloway," Judge Margaret Chen said, peering at me over her glasses, "I've reviewed the evidence in this case. It's quite extensive." "Yes, Your Honor." "Your ex-wife moved your children into a home with a man who was actively engaged in pills trafficking. She took them on a trip that was, in fact, a pill smuggling operation. And she did all of this while claiming you were an unfit father due to your work schedule. Is that correct?" "Yes, Your Honor." Judge Chen turned to Vanessa. "Mrs. Galloway, do you have anything to say in your defense?" Vanessa's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client had no knowledge of Mr. Becker's criminal activities. She was deceived by him, just as she was a victim of—" "Save it, counselor," Judge Chen cut him off. "I've read the depositions. I've seen the photos of the parties at that house, the pills on the table, the children left unattended while adults got intoxicated. Whether or not Mrs. Galloway knew about the smuggling operation, she demonstrated a profound lack of judgment in her choice of romantic partner and living situation." Patricia stood. "Your Honor, we have additional evidence. May I approach?" "Please do." Patricia handed the judge a folder. Inside were the recordings from Daisy's stuffed rabbit, the listening device I'd planted during my midnight visit to the Palm Springs house. The FBI had deemed them inadmissible in Tyler's criminal case, but they were perfectly legal in family court. Judge Chen listened to the recordings with a deepening frown. Vanessa's voice, drunk and laughing, saying terrible things about me. Tyler calling me a loser, saying my kids would forget about me soon enough. Vanessa agreeing, saying she should have left me years ago. The judge's face was stone when she finished listening. "Mrs. Galloway, I'm awarding full custody to Mr. Galloway effective immediately. You will have supervised visitation every other weekend, pending a psychological evaluation. You will also be responsible for reimbursing Mr. Galloway for the money you took from the joint accounts." Vanessa started crying. "Your Honor, please." "Furthermore," Judge Chen continued, "I'm ordering you to pay child support in the amount of $1,200 per month. This court is adjourned." The gavel came down like a crack of thunder. Outside the courtroom, Vanessa tried to approach me. Her makeup was ruined, her eyes red and puffy. "Tom, please, can we talk?" "Talk? You want to talk now?" I kept walking toward the exit, my kids' hands in mine. I made a mistake, I know that, but I'm still their mother. I stopped and turned to face her. Noah and Daisy stood close to me, both of them staring at their mother with expressions I couldn't quite read. Not anger, something sadder, disappointment. "You didn't make a mistake, Vanessa. Mistakes are accidents. Forgetting to pay a bill, that's a mistake. What you did was make a choice. You chose Tyler over your kids. You chose parties and fancy clothes over their safety. You chose to call me dead weight while I was working 60-hour weeks to support this family. I was unhappy. So was I. You think I loved being away from my kids? You think I enjoyed missing birthdays and school plays? I did it because it paid well, because it gave us a good life. But that wasn't enough for you. You wanted more. You wanted excitement. Tears streamed down her face. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't give me back the months I lost with my kids while you were playing house with a pills dealer. Sorry doesn't erase the fact that you put Noah and Daisy in danger because you were too selfish to think about anyone but yourself. Dad, Noah said quietly, can we go? I looked down at my son. He'd grown so much in the months we'd been apart. He looked tired, older than 12. Yeah, buddy, we can go. I started to walk away, but Vanessa grabbed my arm. Tom, please, don't take them from me. I'll do anything. I pulled my arm free. You already took them from yourself. I'm just cleaning up the mess. We left her standing there on the courthouse steps, crying while people walked past and pretended not to notice. The next few weeks were hard. Noah barely talked, spending most of his time in his room. Daisy had nightmares about the FBI raid at the rest stop. They both needed therapy, which I couldn't really afford, but Patricia helped me file for victim assistance funds from the state. Slowly, things got better. Noah joined the school robotics club. Daisy made friends with a girl down the street. We fell into a routine. Breakfast, school, homework, dinner, bedtime. Normal, boring, beautiful routine. Vanessa's life, meanwhile, fell apart spectacularly. Her friends abandoned her. Lila posted on Facebook about how she'd always known something was off about Vanessa. Other women from her social circle gave interviews to local news stations, talking about the wild parties and suspicious behavior. Vanessa lost her job. She'd been working in PR for a luxury hotel chain, and they didn't want the negative publicity. She had to move out of the Palm Springs mansion and into a studio apartment in a rough part of Houston. Her Instagram went dark. No more photos of designer clothes and expensive cocktails. No more captions about living her best life. I should have felt satisfied. Should have felt like justice had been served. But I didn't. Not yet. Because Tyler was still out there and he was pissed. Tyler made bail 3 months after his arrest. His lawyer, probably paid for by Miguel's cartel connections, argued that he was a flight risk, but managed to get him released on $1 million bond. I found out when Rick called me at 2 a.m. Tom, wake up. We got a problem. I sat up in bed, instantly alert. Years of rig work had trained me to wake up fast. What's wrong? Tyler's out, and according to my police contact, he's been making threats, saying you ruined his life, cost him millions, got him in trouble with some very dangerous people. Let him talk. What's he going to do? Tom, I'm serious. These cartel guys don't mess around. If Tyler convinced them you're a rat, you could be in real danger. I thought about Noah and Daisy, sleeping in their rooms down the hall. What do you suggest? I suggest we handle this before it becomes a bigger problem. Handle it how? Remember that abandoned rig out in Chambers County? The one Big Mike said was getting decommissioned? Yeah, what about it? What if Tyler had an accident out there? Nothing fatal, Rick added quickly. Just something that makes him realize messing with you is a very bad idea. I should have said no. Should have called the police, gotten a restraining order, done things the legal way. But I was tired of doing things the legal way. The legal way had let Vanessa drain my accounts. The legal way had almost let Tyler use my kids as pills mules. The legal way was slow and expensive and didn't always work. Sometimes you needed to send a message the old-fashioned way. Set it up, I said. 3 days later, I sent Tyler a text from a burner phone. Want your money back? Meet me at the old Chambers County rig. Come alone. Midnight. I didn't expect him to actually show up. Figured he'd smell the trap, stay away, and I'd have to think of something else. But Tyler was desperate. And desperate people do stupid things. Rick and I got to the rig 2 hours early. The place was a rusted skeleton, abandoned for 5 years after the company that owned it went bankrupt. The platform creaked in the wind, and the whole structure looked like it might collapse at any moment. You sure about this? Rick asked as we climbed up to the main platform. No, but I'm doing it anyway. We set up our trap carefully. Rick had brought rope, duct tape, and a portable camera. We positioned the camera to record everything, insurance, in case Tyler tried to claim we'd assaulted him. At midnight, headlights appeared in the distance. A car, Tyler's silver BMW, pulled up to the base of the rig. Tyler got out, looking around nervously. He was wearing designer jeans and a leather jacket, completely inappropriate for an oil field. Galloway? He called out. You here? Up here? I shouted from the platform. Tyler climbed the stairs slowly, clearly uncomfortable with the height and the darkness. When he reached the platform, he saw me standing in the center, Rick in the shadows behind me. "Where's my money?" Tyler demanded. "What money?" "The money you cost me. The deal that fell through because of you. Miguel wants his cut and I don't have it. So you're gonna pay," I laughed. "I'm gonna pay? You use my kids as pills mules and I'm supposed to pay you? You ruined my life." "No, Tyler, you ruined your own life. I just helped speed up the process." Tyler pulled out a knife. Not a big one, probably something he bought at a gas station, but sharp enough to be dangerous. "Give me the money or I'll cut you." I didn't move. "Go ahead. Try it." He lunged at me, clumsy and wild. I sidestepped easily. Years of dodging swinging chains and moving equipment had given me good reflexes, and grabbed his wrist. The knife clattered to the metal platform. "You know what your problem is, Tyler?" I twisted his arm behind his back and forced him to his knees. "You think you're tough because you sell pills to rich kids. You think you're dangerous because you know some cartel guys, but you're not. You're soft, you're weak, and you're stupid. Let me go." "Not yet. First, we're going to have a conversation about what happens if you ever threaten me or my family again." Rick appeared with the rope. We tied Tyler's hands behind his back and sat him down against one of the rig's support beams. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, crouching in front of him. "You're going to go back to your cartel friends and tell them I have nothing to do with your arrest. You're going to tell them you got sloppy, got caught, and that's on you. Understand? They'll end me if I don't pay them back. Not my problem. You made choices, Tyler. Bad choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. Please, man, I'll do anything." "Anything? Okay. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to plead guilty at your trial. No deals, no reduced sentence. You're going to take full responsibility and make sure Vanessa's name doesn't come up. She's stupid, but she's still my kid's mother and they don't need her in prison. And if I do that, then I don't send this video to Miguel showing you begging and crying like a little kid." I held up Rick's phone, showing the recording. "I'm guessing your cartel buddies wouldn't be impressed by this, would they?" Tyler's face went pale. "You're insane." "No, I'm a father. There's a difference." We left him tied up on the platform, called the police from a payphone 20 miles away, told them there was a trespasser at the old rig. By the time they found him, we were long gone. Tyler kept his word. He pled guilty, got 15 years in federal prison. Miguel's people left me alone. Probably figured I wasn't worth the trouble. Vanessa tried to use Tyler's imprisonment to argue for more custody time, but it didn't work. Judge Chen wasn't impressed. "Mrs. Galloway, the fact that your boyfriend is now in prison doesn't change the fact that you moved your children in with him in the first place. Custody arrangement stands." I was winning. Everything was falling into place. Vanessa was broken, Tyler was in prison, and I had my kids back. But I wasn't done yet. 6 months after Tyler's sentencing, Vanessa tried one last desperate move. She went to the media. Local news stations started running stories about the devoted mother torn from her children by a vindictive ex-husband. Vanessa gave tearful interviews about how she'd made mistakes but deserved a second chance. She organized a protest outside the courthouse, complete with signs that read, "Mother's rights matter," and "Children need both parents." It was a good strategy. Public opinion started shifting in her favor. Social media lit up with posts supporting her. A local politician even mentioned her case in a speech about family court reform. Patricia called me, concerned. "Tom, this is bad. If she gets enough public support, she might be able to petition for a custody review." "Let her try." "You're not worried?" "I'm done worrying, Patricia. I'm done playing defense. It's time to end this." I called Rick. "Remember all those recordings we made? All the evidence we gathered?" "Yeah. Time to release it. All of it." "Tom, are you sure? Some of that stuff is pretty damaging." "That's the point. We created a website, posted every recording, every photo, every piece of evidence showing Vanessa's partying, her neglect of the kids, her relationship with Tyler, and her lies to the court. We included timestamps, locations, and context for everything. Then we sent the link to every news station that had run her sob story. The response was immediate and brutal. Within 24 hours, the narrative completely flipped. News stations that had portrayed Vanessa as a victim now ran exposés about her deception. Social media turned on her viciously. The protest outside the courthouse dissolved as supporters realized they'd been manipulated. One particularly damaging recording went viral. Vanessa, drunk at a party, laughing about how she'd played the system, and would get those kids back and sell her story to Netflix. She'd been planning to profit off this the whole time. The politician who'd mentioned her case issued a public apology. The mother's rights groups that had supported her released statements distancing themselves from her. Vanessa's lawyer quit. She couldn't afford a new one. The final hearing was almost anticlimactic. Vanessa showed up alone, looking defeated. No fancy clothes, no makeup, just a tired woman who'd run out of options. Judge Chen was not sympathetic. Mrs. Galloway, I've reviewed the new evidence that's come to light. I'm appalled by what I've seen and heard. Not only did you endanger your children and lie to this court, but you attempted to manipulate public opinion for personal gain. I'm revoking your visitation rights entirely. You will have no contact with your children until they turn 18, at which point they can decide for themselves if they want a relationship with you. Your Honor, please, Vanessa started. I'm not finished. You will also be ordered to pay Mr. Galloway's legal fees in full, as well as continued child support. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the District Attorney's Office to investigate whether you committed perjury in your earlier testimony. The gavel came down. Vanessa sat there stunned. Then she turned to look at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Not anger, not hatred, just emptiness. She'd lost everything, her kids, her money, her reputation, her future. She'd gambled it all on Tyler and his promises of a better life, and she'd lost. I should have felt triumphant, should have felt vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. They wanted statements, reactions, sound bites for the evening news. I ignored them and walked to my truck where Noah and Daisy were waiting with Rick. Is it over? Noah asked. Yeah, buddy, it's over. What about Mom? I looked at my son. He was 13 now, almost as tall as me. Daisy was 9, growing up too fast. Your mom made choices, I said carefully. Bad choices. And now she has to live with the consequences. But that doesn't mean you can't love her. She's still your mother. I don't think I want to see her, Noah said quietly. Me neither, Daisy added. That's okay. You don't have to decide right now. Maybe someday you'll feel differently. Maybe not. Either way, I'll support you. We drove home in comfortable silence. Rick had made dinner, his famous chili, which was mostly just beans and hot sauce, but tasted amazing after the stress of the hearing. That night, after the kids were in bed, I sat on my porch with a beer and looked up at the stars. The same stars I'd looked at from oil rigs in the Gulf, from Danny's trailer in Palm Springs, from that abandoned rig in Chambers County. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I hope you're happy. You destroyed my life. Vanessa. I stared at the message for a long moment. Thought about all the things I could say, all the ways I could twist the knife one more time. Instead, I typed, I didn't destroy your life. You did. I just stopped letting you destroy mine. Then I blocked the number, finished my beer, and went inside to check on my kids. Noah was asleep with a robotics manual on his chest. Daisy was curled up with her stuffed rabbit, the same rabbit that had helped me gather evidence against Vanessa. I kissed them both on the forehead and went to my own room. The next morning, I got a call from Big Mike. Galloway, you coming back to the rigs or what? We got a new platform going up in the Gulf. It could use a good roughneck. I looked around my small house, at the dishes in the sink, the school backpacks by the door, the family photos on the wall. Thanks, Mike. But I think I'm done with rig work. Time to find something closer to home. You sure? Pays good. I'm sure I've got everything I need right here. I hung up and made breakfast for my kids, pancakes, bacon, and eggs. Nothing fancy, but it was ours. Noah came downstairs first, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Morning, Dad. Morning, buddy. Sleep okay? Yeah, I had a dream we went fishing. Just you and me. You want to go fishing this weekend? His face lit up. Really? Really? We can invite Daisy too, if she wants. I want to. Daisy appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas. We ate breakfast together, talking about school and friends and weekend plans. Normal conversation, normal life. Later that day, I got an email from Patricia. Vanessa had been charged with perjury and was facing up to 2 years in prison. Her lawyer had tried to argue that she'd been under duress, but the judge wasn't buying it. I forwarded the email to Rick with a simple message. It's done. He called immediately. So that's it? You won? Yeah, I guess I did. You don't sound happy about it. I am. I got my kids back, Vanessa's out of our lives, and Tyler's in prison. Everything worked out. But winning doesn't feel the way I thought it would. It's not some big triumphant moment, it's just quiet. Rick laughed. That's because you're not a villain, Tom. You're just a dad who fought for his kids. And you won. Now you get to enjoy the boring parts, homework and parent-teacher conferences and teaching them to drive someday. Sounds perfect. It is, man, it really is. 3 months later, I got a job as a safety inspector for an oil company. Good pay, normal hours, home every night. Noah made the honor roll. Daisy joined soccer. We were happy, really genuinely happy. I never heard from Vanessa again, according to Lila, who I'd stayed in touch with because she felt guilty about not warning me sooner. Vanessa served 18 months for perjury, then moved to Arizona to live with her sister. She worked at a call center, lived in a small apartment, and kept to herself. She'd sent one letter to the kids, which I'd saved for them to read when they were older. In it, she apologized and said she understood if they never wanted to see her again. Noah had asked if he had to respond. I told him no, not until he was ready. 5 years later, on Noah's 18th birthday, he asked me about his mother. "Do you think she's changed?" he asked. "I don't know, buddy. People can change, but it takes real work. And sometimes the damage is too deep to fix. Would you be mad if I wanted to see her?" I put my hand on his shoulder. "I'd never be mad at you for wanting to know your mother. Just be careful, okay? Protect yourself." He nodded. "I think I want to wait a little longer. Maybe when I'm older. That's okay too." Daisy never asked about Vanessa. She'd been younger when everything happened, and her memories of her mother were mostly of being ignored or left with babysitters. She didn't seem interested in reconnecting, and I didn't push. People sometimes asked me if I regretted how things went down, if I thought I'd gone too far, been too harsh. The answer was always no. Vanessa had made her choices. She'd chosen Tyler over her family. She'd chosen parties and excitement over her children's safety. She'd chosen to lie, manipulate, and try to profit from her own mistakes. I'd simply made sure she faced the consequences of those choices. Some people called me vindictive. Others called me a hero. I was neither. I was just a roughneck who'd learned that sometimes the only way to fix a problem is to get your hands dirty. 10 years after that divorce text, I stood in the audience at Noah's college graduation. He'd gotten a full scholarship to study engineering. Daisy was in high school, captain of her soccer team, talking about becoming a veterinarian. They'd turned out okay. Better than okay. They were good kids who'd survived a bad situation and come out stronger. That was my victory. Not Vanessa's downfall, not Tyler's imprisonment, not the money or the custody or the public vindication. My victory was watching my kids thrive. After the ceremony, Noah found me in the crowd. He was wearing his cap and gown, holding his diploma, grinning from ear to ear. "We did it, Dad. You did it, buddy. I'm so proud of you." He hugged me, and for just a moment, I was back on that oil rig, reading that divorce text, feeling like my world was ending. But it hadn't ended. It had just changed direction. Sometimes life tears you down. Sometimes people you trust betray you. Sometimes you lose everything you thought mattered. And sometimes, if you're tough enough and smart enough and just stubborn enough not to quit, you build something better from the wreckage. I'd started as a roughneck working on oil rigs, trying to provide for a family that didn't appreciate me. I'd ended as a father, raising 2 incredible kids who knew they were loved. That was the real payback. Not revenge against Vanessa, but proving that I was exactly the man I'd always claimed to be. A man who didn't quit. A man who protected his family. A man who kept his promises. As we walked out of the graduation ceremony, Noah asked, "Dad, did Mom ever try to contact us again?" "A few times over the years. I saved all the letters for you and Daisy. You can read them whenever you're ready." "Do you think I should reach out to her?" I stopped walking and looked at my son. He was a man now, capable of making his own decisions. "That's up to you, Noah. I won't be mad either way. Just remember, forgiveness is about you finding peace, not about giving someone another chance to hurt you." He nodded thoughtfully. "I think I need more time. Take all the time you need." We walked to the parking lot where Daisy was waiting by my truck. She'd convinced me to buy a newer model. Still a Ford, still a truck, but without the rust and mysterious engine noises. "Can we get ice cream?" Daisy asked. "Absolutely. What kind of graduation celebration doesn't include ice cream?" We drove to the same ice cream shop I'd taken them to when they were little. Noah got chocolate, Daisy got strawberry, and I got vanilla because I'm boring and I've made peace with it. Sitting there in the plastic chairs, eating ice cream with my kids, I realized something. I'd won. Not because Vanessa had lost everything, not because Tyler was in prison, not because I'd gotten revenge. I'd won because my kids were happy, healthy, and whole. Because they knew they were loved. Because they'd grown up to be good people despite everything that had happened. That was the real victory. That was the real payback. And it was better than any revenge I could have planned. My phone buzzed. A text from Rick. How'd the graduation go? I typed back, perfect. Absolutely perfect. You earned it, brother. Enjoy. I looked at my kids, both of them laughing about something on Daisy's phone, and I smiled. Yeah, I'd earned this. Every sleepless night on those rigs, every dollar saved, every sacrifice made, every battle fought. It had all been worth it for this moment, for ice cream with my kids on a sunny afternoon, for knowing they were safe, for knowing I'd kept my promise to protect them no matter what it cost me. That night, after I dropped Noah off at his apartment and Daisy was in bed, I sat on my porch one last time. The stars were out, bright and clear, the same stars that had watched over me through everything. I raised my beer to the sky in a silent toast, to second chances, to hard-won victories, to the long road from that divorce text to this moment, to being a roughneck who'd learned that the hardest work isn't on the rigs, it's being a father. And I'd done that work. I'd done it well. Tomorrow I'd go back to my job, I'd pay my bills, I'd call Daisy to make sure she'd done her homework. I'd text Noah to see how his first day at his new internship went. Normal life, beautiful, boring, perfect normal life. But tonight I let myself feel it. The satisfaction, the pride, the peace. I'd started with nothing but a divorce text and a backbone. I'd ended with everything that mattered. My kids were safe. My conscience was clear. My life was my own. Vanessa had wanted a fresh start. Well, she'd gotten one, just not the one she'd imagined. And me? I'd gotten exactly what I'd fought for. My family, my dignity, my life back. That was Roughneck's payback. Not revenge, not destruction, just justice, served cold and deliberate like everything else I'd ever done. I finished my beer, went inside, and locked the door behind me. Tomorrow was a new day, and for the first time in years, I was actually looking forward to it.